in this video, what we're going to look at is this thing here. This is a form which I've built to glue up the type of bows that we're currently looking at making. The form itself is made from MDF, and it has these dowels through it, which I'll explain in a moment. The MDF thing, you can make this pretty much out of anything. If you have some plywood, you might be able to make it out of some scaffboard planks or something like that. I chose MDF. It's easy to cut down and mill down, and it's okay, you know. It's obviously going to take on a little bit of moisture, but we have varnished it and sealed it, so it's been okay. It's done very well out of MDF. The thing that I want to show you though is this. To make one of these forms, the first thing that I did was to draw half of the profile of the bow. Again, the profile, it's to some degree a matter of taste and just personal preference. What I wanted here was a deflex. I wanted a deflex coming out of the bow and then a reflex into the tip. And I think this is possibly attempt number 3 where we finally got it to the right sort of dimensions. The point is, I made this by drawing this out on a piece of wallpaper. Then, when I was happy with it, I've stuck the wallpaper to a piece of thin ply, and then I've used this as a template to cut out 4 pieces of the 20mm or 22mm, I think it is, MDF. So this section here is double thickness MDF, this section here is double thickness, and is joined in the middle with this sort of flange here. I mean, obviously it's glued all the way down. And once I'd gotten it into that sort of shape, what I found to be good was the rasp. If there's any discrepancies in the top, you definitely want to flatten those out. You want the bow to lie absolutely flat on there, and no dips or anything like this. So I found a rasp, once this is all glued up and you're ready to finish the surface of it, just like this, and that will take out any discrepancies which might be there. Now, the dowels, I've put a dowel, what's that? That's about every 4 centimeters there's a dowel running right the way, the full length of the form. I've also drilled some holes in here, fairly large holes. The holes are to take the clamps. When I'm gluing up a bow, which is, I'm going to do a video along with this one where we're going to actually glue up a bow, and I'll show you how this works. But the clamps essentially will go in those holes and they'll tighten down on the bow. What I find is I'll clamp it, you know, tight but not fully tight, so it still has a little bit of wiggle room, so that when we're lining it up down here and I clamp it down at the bottom, it still needs a little bit of breathing space for the next step of the process. Now, in gluing up a bow, I've found one of the main things is you want even pressure down the entire length of each limb, and that can be a difficult thing to achieve. You can use clamps, not with a form like this. It would be difficult to use clamps with a form like this, but you can use clamps. You can use a lot of clamps and clamp the bow that way. What I saw, there was a video somewhere on YouTube of a chap doing this, and I thought that was a really good idea. The idea is essentially, you have a piece of rope, and let's say that your bow is on here, like this, just as an example. You tie a rope on there, tie it here, and then you're tying it alternately, or just hooking it really, around the dowels, either way, again, full length of the bow. When that's done, I have here some really small hickory wedges, and what I do with those is I'll put a little wedge under each loop and just gently hammer that in. Now, what I've found is that through doing this and through keeping it going, that gives you a nice even pressure throughout each of the limbs. At the end of that, once that's all nice and tight and the wedges are knocked in properly, I would then finally clamp down the bow with the clamps around the handle section and on the tips. But the form itself, to some degree it's trial and error to get a shape which you're happy with. This one has worked very well, and I can post some dimensions for that if you want to take a look and see. You know, it might be a good starting point for you. But the thing itself, once that is made, I essentially clamped that to the MDF and used a deep router bit to cut alongside that to take out the exact shape of it on the MDF, and then similar with that piece, 4 pieces in total, glued together this way, then glued together that way and flanged, and the whole thing is also sitting on a piece of 4x2, and then I have all of that clamped up into a workmate just to steady it whilst we're actually gluing the bow up. So that is the form. That's one type of form. I do use another type which is more like a steel rail, which I'll explain in another video. But this one here, made out of MDF, very cheap to make. It's probably about £20 total to make that. Make the template first though, and get the dimensions of the bow to the way you want it to be. Cut out the MDF, glue it all together, and there's a form. This method of gluing I've found to be very good. Tried a few different methods over the years. This one works very well. It's just tying that round, and again you can get quite a bit of pressure on that as you're tying it, and then the extra pressure exerted by these wedges give a nice, practically invisible glue line. So that's the form. Very short video. The next video, I'm going to do that one right now. I'm going to actually glue up a bow and show you how the whole thing works. Then we're going to stick it in this hot box, which I'll explain a little bit about as well. Okay, thank you.